Welcome to the Ag Innovation News Podcast, presented by the Agricultural Utilization Research Institute of Minnesota. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ag Innovation News Podcast, presented by the Agricultural Utilization Research Institute of Minnesota. I'm Jamie Dickerman, your host for the Ag Innovation News Podcast. A reminder that guests on this podcast shed light on innovations in value-added agriculture, highlight important voices and work that's being done throughout Minnesota's ag sector, and also educate the public about resources and organizations that support Minnesota agriculture. Today on the podcast, we welcome Allison Hohn. Allison is the Executive Director of Naturally Minnesota. Allison, thank you for taking time to be on the podcast.
Good morning, Jamie. Thank you so much for having me today.
Great to have you on and getting you on the podcast. Let's do a little introduction here and tell folks a little bit about yourself and your background, and let's get the 411 on Allison here.
Sounds good. Well, I don't know if they'd be able to see. I do have a periodic table hanging in the back of my office here, and that is my nod to my former life as a food scientist. So I spent the first 10 plus years of my career at Land O'Lakes and then at Target doing product development for those companies. Really getting a deep understanding and appreciation of what it takes to go from, benchtop to pilot plant to full commercialization. And near the end of that tenure, I ended up getting a second master's in supply chain management because, why not? And that was between Land O'Lakes and Target. And it was great going to Target, very different experience of, they don't own any of their own manufacturing. It's all vendor partners, whereas Land O'Lakes obviously does. So a different experience. However, being at a retailer lends you a lot of behind the scenes information on how do retailers think about what goes on shelf? How do they think about the national brands versus their own brands? How do they leverage consumer sentiment, or as guests, as they call it, to make decisions for their store assortment? So got a really wonderful end-to-end understanding of what it takes to bring a successful product to market. And the through line was that I mentored in accelerators. They had it both and really loved doing that. I had a side hustle of coaching club soccer for 10 years for girls age 8 to 16, loved coaching, mentoring, scene development. And when I stopped coaching, I got a new side hustle consulting for a firm in New York that was all about helping entrepreneurs. And for those, it was, scale their formula, find them a co-manufacturer, do scale-up trials, all those type of things. And when the role at originally Grow North, we rebranded to Naturally Minnesota in 2022, popped up, I was like, I get to help the entire ecosystem of entrepreneurs, not just those who can afford to pay a consultant, which is, generally a very small amount.
Yeah, very small window.
Yes.
Well, so you mentioned Naturally Minnesota, and that's where you are. Talk about Naturally Minnesota. People don't know what that's all about.
Yes. So Naturally Minnesota is a nonprofit. We sit at the University of Minnesota at the Carlson School of Business at the Holm Center of Entrepreneurship alongside another illustrious program, Minnesota Cup. If you haven't heard of that, largest state-run startup competition in the country. And finals will be in just under a month. So very exciting there. But Naturally Minnesota is here to support food and ag entrepreneurs. And that means everything from, on farm through the value chain with ag tech to consumer packaged good brands you know and love at your retailer store shelves. And we do that through about 40 events a year. A lot of it is education, workshops. We have some cohorts, one of which called the Bold Growth Program. We run in partnership with AURI, actually, through MBold. So AURI is a deep ecosystem partner and collaborator of ours. So always happy to spend more time with the AURI folks. And then we do experiential tours. We just had a farm tour at Thousand Hills Lifetime Graze last week. It's a regen cattle farm. We also have a big pitch slam, and our winner goes to compete against all the other Naturally chapters. There's 11 chapters across the country that we get a layer into. And then we do big networking events. And our biggest event is Food Ag Ideas.
That's right. Food Ag Ideas coming up. So you mentioned that. Talk about that. That's a huge event.
Yes. Food Ag Ideas. I think it's in our 7th or 8th year now of this conference. And it's a really fun convening and gathering moment for the cross section of our ecosystem. Historically, it covered a wide range of topics. In the last few years, we've narrowed it down to be one topic specific and really kind of go deep. So last year was Regen Ag, which was really fun to bring a lot of, farmers, producers, the mid-supply chain folks into for that. This year, it's Food as Health. There's a lot of activity happening in this space right now. Obviously, MAHA at a national level, There's a lot of regulations and things that are being bandied about. And so we're really excited to bring a nice cross section of folks together and cover some interesting things that are popping up in this space. So it should be a good couple of days.
Yeah, and different topics, like you said, you're going to be covering kind of a wide gamut of things. So if you want to maybe break down a little bit of what you're going to be doing specifically there.
Sure. So Monday, October 13th is the kickoff day, and that's going to have a little bit of a plant-based theme to it. So there will be a cooking demo. So if you want to get in the kitchen and learn to cook something delicious and get your hands on, get dirty, that would be a great opportunity. Right after that, we have one of our headliners. We have a fireside chat with Miyoko Shinner from Miyoko's Creamery and Dr. Pat Brown, the founder of Impossible Foods. So really some kind of legendary pioneers and icons in the plant-based industry who will be showing up, and that'll be at the Walker in Minneapolis. So really excited to hear from those two. And then we'll be going just down the road to Purist Protein, Peep Protein Company locally, who's been doing a lot of fantastic things in the space. Great company, great folks over there. And we're excited to have another chat there, do some tours. There will be an innovation showcase of cool plant-based brands, some networking, things like that. So that day is really going to be kind of dialed in on that plant-based space and some of the interesting innovation and future of, I'd say, the plant-based industry has kind of had a darling moment and then they did not. And so it's time for the next gen version of that. And that's what Miyoko and Pat will be talking about.
Super exciting stuff, and I could tell, when you're talking about it, it fires you up to talk about the plant-based day. I think is, but a lot of great things coming up in this. This is like you said, it's jam packed full of events and great information going to be served up here.
Yeah, and I'd say, Tuesday is another full day of content. There will be 5 sessions that day. We'll start with some integrative medicine on the front end as we think about, the future of the healthcare industry and how that plays out for better human health. I'd say, we do not set folks up for success. It's not about prevention, it's about treating symptoms. And so a lot of the conversation is going to be around what needs to change in order to, keep people healthy and have them stay healthy as opposed to treat the disease later on. And then there'll be some trends and insights around, what are retailers, what are brands, what are attributes that are looking for. So if you're a brand, a retailer, or anybody in the space who's thinking about how do I capitalize on what's hot, what's happening now, that's going to be a not miss session. And then we'll have the folks from the non-GMO project here talking about their new ultra processed food standard. So for those who don't know, and this is a great argument I get in with Jason Robinson all the time around what constitutes an ultra processed food. I shouldn't say we argue. We're generally on the same page as food scientists because we're like, if you boil water, you've processed it. So, I'd say a general consumer doesn't have a good understanding of what it means and how does that play out for, the different type of products. I mean, canned goods are processed, but often you're preserving better nutrition by doing that. So demystifying that new standard and how can consumers leverage when that claim goes out to make better decisions on store shelves, especially in the center of store, which has gotten vilified as contributing to a lot of the chronic diseases, obesity, things like that. So excited for that. They'll be duking it out with a food scientist from the U on that. So that'll be a great conversation. And then we will have Dr. Liz Clotis, the founder of Step One Foods, on a panel talking about functional food development and what does it take to make products that actually support human health, whether it's nutrient dense, whether it's the function of those foods, and the type of testing they can do to prove that. So if folks don't know, Step One has Mayo studies, clinical studies proving the efficacy of their products in lowering cholesterol and improving heart health. So there's a lot of ways brands can leverage the trends, the functional foods, and get testing done to show what they're doing is actually supporting better human health. So that'll be, I think, a really interesting and relevant panel for the landscape in retail. And then that evening, I'm super excited for a second year in a row. We will be having a joint networking event with the Reuters Transform Food attendees. So they're in town for their conference. This is the 3rd year in a row they're here. They've been great collaborators. So very excited to have a big networking event and cross-pollinate all those attendees. The networking there alone is worth the ticket price, honestly. So, make sure you stick around the whole day.
Well, and so who can attend this event? Is this open to anyone?
It is open to anyone. You can go to our website, foodaggideas.com, or the long roundabout way at naturallyminnesota.org to find it. But generally the concentric circles we see from an attendee standpoint is the heart of attendees are people who are actively doing work in this space, in this food as health space, whether their brand falls into that, whether they're in adjacent industries, whether they're nutritionists, anyone in and around natural food retailers and co-ops, anyone whose lifeblood is, the food is health and creating products. And then the concentric circles out are people who are just interested in learning more, something, that ticks their fancy. They want to hang out. And then we also just get people who say, I go to FAI every year. It's always fun. I learn a bunch. And I'll be there this year. And what's great is you can kind of opt into whether you want to do both Monday or Tuesday or all of it. So there's a little bit of a choose your own adventure. So if you're like, hey, plant-based is for me, the rest of it, I got to work that day, can't do it. There's flexibility for people to kind of build their own schedule a little bit.
So outside of that event, what else is happening in Naturally Minnesota? Things that you want to talk about?
Oh, well, there's always so much, with 40 events a year. So, like I mentioned, we just had that farm tour, which is always a crowd pleaser. A lot of people just don't get out and about, and so getting on farm or in manufacturing to see, kind of how the sausage is made for a lot of folks is really fascinating because we just don't get those opportunities. So that's always a fun one. Coming up at the end of September, we actually have a half day of content around the beauty and body care industry. So if there's anyone out there who has a beauty brand, body care, health and wellness brand, we'll be doing a half day of content around, what does it take to scale those type of brands? And also specifically, what are the trends and insights from retailers and alternative retailers? When people think retail, especially in Minnesota, they often go straight to Target. But when it comes to beauty and body care, spas, salons, there are, Lifetime Fitness, there are a lot of alternative channels that are better fits for scaling those brands. So I would definitely check that out. Um, and then, we will be culminating on the 10th of October, a brand new cohort we launched this year called the Retail Launch Lab, which is for early stage brands. And we're super excited about that. It'd been taking workshops we had done, kind of standalone, and putting them all into a cohort format. And the best part is the content is all online. It's video modules. It's on our website under the CPG Academy. And if you are a member of Naturally Minnesota and Founders, membership is free. There's no excuse not to be a member, Founders. And for industry folks, it's 99 bucks a year. You spend more on coffee in a month on that, I'm sure. So like very affordable. But you have access to that as a member and you can go at your own pace. And it's such great content, especially for brands maybe graduating from farmers markets and just getting into retail because it really forces you to go through your numbers, go through your COGS, your cost of goods, think about how you're going to support in retail. People never account for trade spend, which is promotions and things like that. So it really gets into some of the nitty gritty and what's great and terrible. Sometimes we call it a dream crusher, but it helps people be realistic about the success of their business. And we've had people do the math and say, when I put in all the numbers, I'm not going to make money. Like I can't do this. And we've had people say, maybe this isn't for me. Retail's not for me. Or I just like to do farmers market and enjoy that. And the whole point is we want people to have successful businesses and right size their business for their goals. And so it's been really helpful on that. So that's been very exciting to see that come to life.
Now, Naturally Minnesota has got a milestone coming up too, right? An upcoming milestone.
We do. So the inception of Grow North, our previous brand name, it started around 2016 when they kind of got a band of people together saying, hey, we have all these companies coming out of Minnesota Cup. They don't have any support. How do we better support them? And it's crazy to think that next year, that's 10 years. So we will be doing a number of things to support and to celebrate this 10-year anniversary. We'll be doing a 10 for 10, 10K sponsor. So the first 10 sponsors that come in at 10K will get a legacy status and some acknowledgement and extra support and things on our website, which there's a handful of legacy sponsors. We already have that, I think we'll get that recognition, which is great because even though we live at the U, we actually do not get any money from the U. I have to fundraise to pay my salary, all of our programming. So it is through grants and through corporate sponsors and partners that we're really able to continue our programming. So that anniversary is coming up. There will be some exciting announcements at FAI for the community. So if you want to hear it first, you'll have to attend. But that'll be it's going to be a momentous couple of months here. So really excited about the future of the org and what we've got come down the line.
So if people want to come to FAI, and we talked about how the jam-packed event that it is, if they want to register, get more information again, where do they go?
foodagagideas.com or naturallyminnesota.org and go under events. And you'd be able to link directly to that website. And you can see the full lineup of content for those days. There will also on the Wednesday, there will be a kind of a sidecar add-on. There's a healthcare startup that's going to be doing a pop-up. So as you think about nutrition and performance and holistic health again, that'll be the focus there. So there'll be a lot of different ways to activate that week. But yeah, we hope to see a nice variety of folks out there. It's going to be a great time, I would say. Uh, what's nice about our conference versus, I'd say, some of the larger conferences is that people there really want to connect. They want to have conversation. They want to engage. It's not people standing around idly kind of looking at you and then like looking at their phone. Like people want to get to know you. They want to understand how they can help. I think that's one of the best things about our community here in Minnesota, and specifically the food and ag ecosystem, is the collaboration mindset is so extraordinary. And so that's often the best feedback we get from people is, yeah, they love the content, they love the experiences, but it's who they met at the conference that made all the difference for the trajectory of their business.
Allison, is there anything else that you would like to touch on while we have the time here? Anything else you'd like to
Oh man,
speak
I do
on?
have to give a shout out to Simon Solis Cohen, CEO of Huxley. He was our Pitch Slam winner this year, and 2 weeks ago at Utopia Now, he took home the grand prize against all of the other chapter winners. He crushed it. If you are not familiar with Huxley, it is a superfruit energy brand. It only has 90 milligrams of caffeine, so unlike the 200-gram monsters of the world, it's got natural cane sugar. It uses an upcycled superfruit for its caffeine source, cascara. It's just an incredible company. Simon is a founder who is one of the most phenomenal executors I have ever seen. That man knows his business inside and out. I wish I could copy paste him onto every other founder. So incredibly well deserved. It's a great product. He's just been on a rocket ship. I'm so excited to see where he goes. But it's been really fun, I would say, coming out of the pandemic. And there's obviously survival that has to happen from the investment landscape, from retailer landscape. And Minnesota is in a really exciting spot of having a pipeline of really robust brands right now. That are growing, So Good So You is up there. Johnny Pops just got Forbes recognition. Smackin', those guys were for 30 under 30 for Forbes. There's a huge pipeline of great brands. Seven Sunday. I mean, you can just go on and on and on. Mazza, Bim Bamboo. I mean, it's so exciting in our ecosystem right now. And I'm really looking forward. And, one of the things we'll be doing in 2026 is building programming for brands in that 1 to 5 million space. That's kind of the last frontier for programming. There's an abundance of resources for the million and under in Minnesota. We do the bold growth with AURI for the 5 to 50 million range, but that 1 to 5 is a really tough space for companies to move through and survive. And so we'll be building some kind of custom cohort experiential things for that space. So excited to keep ushering that pipeline through.
Allison, it's been great having you on. Thank you. Love your energy. And your passion for this. It's contagious. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope to see you at FAI.
Absolutely. We've been visiting today with Allison Hohn, the Executive Director of Naturally Minnesota, inviting you to come to the annual Food and Ag Ideas Week coming up here. And I want to thank you for joining us today and for listening to the Ag Innovation News podcast presented by the Agricultural Utilization Research Institute of Minnesota. If you want to learn more about AURI, you can go to auri.org. This has been the Ag Innovation News Podcast, presented by the Agricultural Utilization Research Institute of Minnesota.